What's going on, guys? It's Rage, and once again, welcome back to some more of the H2M mod. Here for today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through the entire installation process of the H2M mod. Now, the first thing that I want to say is, please be sure you watch the video the full way through before asking questions down in the comment section below. There's a whole lot of things that I'm going to be covering throughout the course of this video. I'll have timestamps down below. There is a good chance that your question might get answered by the end of the video. So again, just be sure you watch it all the way through first. The good news is, though, is that the overall installation process for this is very, very easy. You're literally just dragging and dropping two folders. That's it. With that being said, I am using the Steam Modern Warfare Remastered files. I don't know anything else about the other downloads. I don't know where to help you on that. This is purely Steam Modern Warfare Remastered files. I also had some questions about if the Microsoft Store version will work, and I was told no initially by the original H2M devs. Now, I also understand a lot of people's worry about where are we supposed to get the correct files, because unfortunately there's been some bad apples and a whole lot of misinformation's been spread out there. People are running virus scans and saying that they're getting Trojans and whatnot. I've heard that they're false positives. I've done Malwarebytes scans. Nothing has come up for me. When it comes to security, of course, I'm going to talk more about this later, but I will be referencing the Horizon Discord. I'm going to go ahead and leave their Discord link down in the description below, because it seems like they're the ones that are making eventually a new launcher for this. Which also, with that being said, if a launcher does come out, it might make this whole installation process a million times easier, because it might be automatic like the original H2M was supposed to be. There are certain things in this video that may be subject to change, again, when/if a launcher does come out. Whenever that time may or may not come, though, I will go ahead and update you guys in the comment section below. If anything major or drastic changes, I'll leave that down in the pinned comment below. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get this started. First, what you're going to do is come to Modern Warfare Remastered here in your Steam library. You are going to right click on it and go to Browse Local Files. This is where everything is going to go, right here in your Steam MWR directory. Now, the very first thing that I want to mention is have a look at my directory here. If yours is a little bit different, don't worry about it, that's okay. The main thing that I'm concerned about, because this has happened to me before, if for whatever reason you do not have a zone file, and if you're looking here at your directory and you have thousands of items here, if say for example you have all of these files that are supposed to be in your zone folder, like all of the map files themselves here, MP head, if anything seems out of line like that, here in your main directory, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to the MWR file cleaner in the description below as well. This may not be necessary for everyone, but if that does apply to you and you have like thousands of files here in your main directory, go ahead, drop this into your main directory, let it run. It will clean up all of the files and folders for you and get it all organized. In the description below, there is going to be a link to a Google Drive folder for all H2M files. The favorites.json file is not in there, but I will discuss that here in just a little bit. Once you go ahead and get it downloaded, put it here on your desktop, right click on it and go to extract to all H2M files. It will create a folder here on your desktop. What you're going to do is open your Steam MWR directory, and with the all H2M files, you are going to copy these three right here. The folder that says H2M-MOD, H2M user maps in the exe, and just drag and drop. That's it. If you're someone who wants to have 10th Prestige 70, what you're going to do is take this user folder, come over here into your players 2, and then replace whatever user folder is in here, or just again copy and paste the contents into it. That is completely up to you if you want 10th Prestige 70. Within the H2M mod folder, this has all of your scripts and everything that you'll need for the mod, and then also here your H2M user maps. I've seen a couple questions about this when it comes to the single player Spec Ops maps. As of right now, on every server that I've played so far on H2M, not a single one has these enabled. There might be some servers out there that are using them, and again, there might come a point in time when/if an official launcher comes out that these will be easier to download. I had these from the original H2M launcher before the cease and desist, but in my honest opinion right now, I really wouldn't even worry about it, because it's an extra 31 gigs, 32 gigs. It's an extra 32 gigs for maps that people just aren't playing right now. So for now, I really would not worry about this. In the future though, again, when/if a launcher comes out, these might be a little bit more easily accessible, and then we can worry about it then. But for right now, you really don't need to worry about it. I've also seen some questions about how to access the Modern Warfare Remastered DLC. Of course, you could purchase it here on Steam. I personally think that's just the best way to go about it. Just go ahead and purchase it on Steam, or if you can find a cheap key for it. All of the files will directly install to where they need to go in your MWR zone folder. The thing is with the MWR DLC, as well as the single player maps here, once again, is that if you are on a server that does have these maps and you don't have them installed, it'll just kick you out of the server. It's not the end of the world, it'll just kick you out because you don't have the maps. It varies from server to server on who's running what maps. With that being said though, that really is the installation tutorial right there. You should be able to go ahead and just load up the H2M mod exe, should boot, you should be good to go. But before we go ahead and do that, I want to walk you guys through a couple of extra things that you might want to do first, just to make sure that your game can actually launch. Because H2M is running off of your Steam Modern Warfare Remastered files, I would highly recommend making sure that your MWR actually launches. That way you don't run into any problems on H2M, or at least hopefully you shouldn't run into into any more problems on it. If you are someone that has never launched Modern Warfare Remastered, here's what I recommend doing. I would recommend installing the campaign, which is right here, Modern Warfare Remastered 2017. Go ahead and launch it. If your game launches, you're in a good spot. The problem is, though, you might run into something where it says out of memory error. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to fix that real quick. Here in my Discord, which I'll go ahead and leave linked down in the description below as well, there is a channel called H2M MWR, and I have a configs.zip file. Once again, repeat the same process, put the config.zip on your desktop, extract the configs. If again you have the out of memory error when you try to launch MWR, download these configs. What you're going to do is open up your players2 folder and just simply copy and paste. That's it. Drag it over. That should fix it, and you should be able to launch MWR. From that point in time, what you're going to do when you're on the campaign menu is go to your options, advanced video, and turn off your shader preload. Same exact thing over on the multiplayer side of Modern Warfare Remastered. What you're going to do is go to your options, video, and disable the cache shaders. It's very important to do this because Modern Warfare Remastered on PC is not a very well optimized port. It's important to disable your shader cache because on newer Nvidia cards, anything that's newer than a GTX 1660, I believe, cannot cache shaders, and your game is going to run very poorly. You might get another error that says something like fatal error graphics or DirectX, something like that. It's because you have to disable your shader cache. Now, I should say, if you are on an AMD graphics card, you should be able to cache your shaders. I don't have an AMD, but I've just heard from other AMD users that they have been able to. If it works for you, great. If your game crashes when trying to cache shaders, just disable it anyway. I've also had so many people tell me that, oh, my MWR just crashes immediately. You have to click cancel twice very quickly. You have to be super quick with it, or yes, your game will crash. The good news is, once again though, as long as you know that your MWR can launch, you should be in good hands. Now again, this might not be entirely necessary for the whole H2M mod, but I recommend doing this once again because it is running off of MWR. It's running off of MWR if I'm not mistaken. It's using the exact same config. I've even got my verified clan tag here on Steam MWR. I didn't even put it there. If you want just to double check everything, go ahead, load up into a private match, run around for a little bit, make sure your game's all good to go. Once you know that your MWR is working, you should be good to go. Before we go ahead and launch H2M, I want to go ahead and show you guys this here in the Horizon Discord. Again, I've seen a lot of people talk about security concerns or even being on the right hash for your exe. I had never even heard of that before. Regarding the rat that was exposed, it's bullshit. Anyone can change a file name, would never see a rat be named rat. And this Trojan is a false positive due to not having the official signed certificates. Go ahead and check this out. This link here will give you the newest exe, which again, it says it will trigger a false positive on your antivirus. If you guys are curious about the hash, here is the hash right here. I tested this on my stream the other day, and that's the exact hash that I have for my exe. Go ahead, check out the Discord, check out the announcements page, get all your information from here. I feel like I should have said this at the start of the video, but again, I am not a developer. I am simply passing on the information that I know. So now that we've covered all of that, let's go ahead and launch H2M. Now that we got H2M all loaded up, once again, the first thing that I would recommend doing is go over to your options here, click on graphics, video, and make sure that your cache shaders are disabled if you aren't already able to do it. Once again, newer Nvidia cards, turn it off. AMD, you might have a chance, but honestly, just turn it off anyway. Now, I've also seen some people talk about that they don't have this background menu for whatever reason. Apparently, the way to fix it if it's bugged is go to your raw folder here in your Steam MWR directory, click on raw, video, and then delete the default.BIK. It should completely fix it because when you go to relaunch the game again, it'll just reset it, give you a new one, give you the proper one. I've tried giving people my file here. It's worked for some, not worked for others. So if it's not working for whatever reason, or again, if you don't have the regular main menu here, just try deleting that and relaunching the game again. So again, once we have H2M loaded up here, there's a couple of things to go ahead and walk through. You can do the personalization options where you can go ahead and set your name that you want to play as. You can set your clan tag. I've had a couple people ask me, how do I get the verified check mark? Unfortunately, I'm sorry, you can't have it. I promise I'm not just saying this to gatekeep. It's actually just an early playtester thing. There was a list of the early access players that have access to this kind of clan tag. And again, unfortunately, now that the cease and desist came through, the original H2M team cannot go back and edit who's on the list of who has access to it. So again, I'm sorry, I can't help you guys with getting a verified check mark. Now, what might end up happening when you go to click find match is there might not be servers here. Now, that's where that favorites.json file comes into play. This again here is very subject to change depending on, once again, if the official launcher comes out. Actually, I've heard, as a matter of fact, there's a whole bunch of new launchers out there. Leon just messaged me this a little bit ago. I have this link here, and I have another one from Glavali, who have a couple new launchers that should fix a server browser problem, so I'll go ahead and leave those down in the description below. You guys can check those out if you want. But for now, with the favorites.json file, all you're going to do is just click, drag, and drop it into your players2 directory. That's it. Then once you're back in the game, though, go ahead and click on filter servers, and you should be good to go. One problem that I've heard is that people are trying to join servers servers and they'll click on something and get thrown into something else entirely. I personally haven't tested it yet, but again, it might be fixed on these new launchers, so you can give that a go if you want. But I also do know that this is a problem on something like Plutonium even. I've had this problem on Pluto Black Ops 2. You should try letting the server list actually fully refresh. Let everything fully refresh. Go ahead and click on the server that you want to join, give it a second, and then double click to join. Then you should be good to go. For those of you guys that are playing on controllers, I've heard that players that are using PS5 controllers need to be using DS4 Windows because this game is again running off of Modern Warfare Remastered that came out in 2016. It has native controller support for PS4, Xbox One, and I think the newer Xbox controllers as well. If you're on PS5, make sure you get DS4 Windows sorted. Again, I don't play with a controller, so I'm sorry, but I can't help you there. What I will say though is again, go to your options, go to controls, and then over here on gamepad, make sure your gamepad is enabled. Speaking of which, here in the controls, for those of us that are playing with keyboard and mouse, I've heard a lot of people talk about how the sensitivity feels weird. How do you find the right sensitivity? Whatever your DPI and your mouse sensitivity is, whatever you used from the original Call of Duty to Call of Duty World War II should be on the same scaling. Me personally, I use 0.7 sensitivity with a 1000 DPI. I don't know if there's a console command to adjust the sensitivity while in scope. I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh my god, this game feels like complete trash on KBAM. Congratulations! Welcome to Modern Warfare Remastered on PC. What you can do to adjust your sensitivity though is open the console using the tilde key. It's the little squiggly line right under your escape key, or if you don't have it, hit your function key and then escape, type /sensitivity, type in the value, you should be good to go. What I have heard that you can do that might alleviate some of the problems is try turning off your enhanced pointer precision in your window settings. If you don't already have that off, try turning that off. It might make it feel a little bit better. Other than that though, I haven't had any problems because I feel like I'm just so used to the way that MWR feels because I actually played the game. I was one of the few psychopaths that actually played MWR on PC, so to me it feels normal. I've also gotten a couple of requests to go through my video options here for you guys. Here are my graphic settings. One very important thing to note here with the refresh rate. I've heard that sometimes it bugs out. I just have it on windowed full screen here for examples just so I can tab in and out. If for whatever reason you feel like your refresh rate is not as high as it should, what I would recommend doing is tab into full screen. If it's bugging out for whatever reason, reset it to 60. Once you reset it to 60, then reset it back to, again, whatever your refresh rate is, and it should fix it. On that note, come over here to your advanced video options and make sure that sync every frame is off. That way you're not locking your FPS to your refresh rate. If you do have sync every frame on, it again is going to match your FPS to your refresh rate. It'll feel smooth, but there's going to be some input lag. For those of you guys that are curious, I am on an RTX 3080, and most of my graphic settings are on high extra because I can get the frames for it. This again is kind of the beauty of PC. You can go ahead, mix and match these around to however you want to get your frame rate that you desire. Shadows are on, the shadow map resolution is on high. Now for caching the sun shadow maps and caching spot shadow maps, I have these on. Now one of the beautiful things about MWR on PC is that it might feel like trash the first couple of times you go to play it, but the longer you play, the more it smooths out. Trust me, as a first time launch, it is completely normal for the game to feel like trash. The more you play, the more it will smooth out. Here's all the post-process options that I have. If you want, you can actually turn off depth of field. I'll go ahead and show you guys an example of this here in a minute. What I would recommend for anti-aliasing is just leave it on FXAA, because if you turn it to FilmX-MOD T2X, the highest one, it says down here that SMOD T2X and FilmX-MOD T2X are not recommended for NVIDIA SLI or AMD Crossfire systems, as they will result in significantly reduced performance. The biggest thing for me though is that if you are playing on that anti-aliasing, you'll probably notice that your weapon has weapon blur to it. For the longest time I had that setting on, and when I would go to get thumbnails, when I would go to inspect weapons, it always looked like my gun had motion blur on. That's what that is. I've left my anti-aliasing on FXAA and haven't really had any problems since then, so if you want, that's what I use. Don't need to have super sampling on, you don't need to have ray tracing on, it's really not that important. Now one of the coolest things about the H2M mod is that you actually have the option to enable and disable 2D scopes. This ties into the depth of field thing that I was just talking about a little bit ago, but here in your create a class options, once you have a sniper selected, you're going to see an option down here that says enable 2D scopes. When you go ahead and click that, what that does is it gives you the traditional black scope. Take the M40 here into the firing range, and it has that traditional 2D black scope. Now, I've heard on the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered snipers that if you are using the 3D scopes here, again with the blur in the background, I've heard that the reticle isn't centered and your shots aren't firing exactly where they're supposed to go. Me personally though, when using the MW2 Remastered snipers, is I just go ahead and throw on the default black scope to it because it just, you know, feels more like the traditional MW2. Plus, it just feels like to me there are different animations depending on what scope that you're using. I notice it here on the intervention. I don't know if it's just my brain playing tricks on me, but it just feels different with the 3D scope. Personally, again, I go ahead and play with the black scopes, but that is completely up to you. This also again does tie into the depth of field option that I was just talking about a little bit ago. If you turn off your depth of field, it gets rid of the blur on on the 3D scopes. So once again, pull up the M40, and now it's not blurry on the outside. So again, the customization option is totally up to you. Me personally, I leave depth of field on. I use the 3D scope here on the M40 just because it feels like MWR, and that's what I'm personally used to. But again though, I would honestly just recommend running the default black scope 2D scopes on your snipers. So now here, I'm loading up this private match on Rust so I can walk you guys through some more basic console commands that I feel like you guys should be using. First things first, the very first thing that I would recommend doing, when you type /com_max FPS, it's going to be uncapped at 0. I would highly recommend just capping yourself at 250 frames, mostly because you really don't need anything more than that. If you really want to, you can put yourself at 333 if you're getting the frame rate for it so you can jump higher. That's it. The reason why I highly recommend 250 frames is again because it gives you that perfect mix of jump height and distance. Trust me on this. Just make your life a million times easier and lock yourself to 250 frames. You do not need anything more than that. Now, me personally, I know I'm very weird. I like to play on default FOV. You guys have probably already gone ahead and slid up the FOV all the way up, but to me personally, this looks like trash. Do not use the FOV slider. This is just the thing on the Modern Warfare Remastered engine, and even on newer Call of Duties today, that FOV, it adjusts the world model and image, but not your gun model, and it just looks and feels very, very weird. They have a slider here for FOV scale where you guys can see it actually moves the world model and your gun model with it. This is the old school style of FOV on Call of Duty PC. This is what I personally prefer. If you're someone who really wants to increase your FOV, what I would honestly recommend doing is just play on something like FOV scale 1.3. This kind of gives you that 120 FOV feeling. I personally prefer doing it this way because again, it just gives you the best of both worlds. What I will say though, if you're trying to snipe, what you're going to notice is that your scope might seem a little bit smaller. Say for example, if I bump my FOV scale back up to 2, notice how your scope is a lot smaller. Again though, if you like to play on a higher FOV, just set it to 1.3. Some other things you can do is CL_yaw_speed. You can set it to 950. Once you set it to 950, go to controls, movement, and then scroll down here to turn right, turn left. If you're someone who likes to spin, this is kind of like the console equivalent of like 10 sensitivity. A lot of people have also asked me if demos are a thing, like COD 4, World at War, the older Call of Duties on PC. Unfortunately, no. Modern Warfare Remastered does not have demos, so that's not a thing. One of the next things that every single one of you should be doing, especially if you're sniping and especially if you like to play on a higher FOV, adjust your safe area. All of these options here that are safe area underscore horizontal, safe area underscore adjusted vertical and horizontal, set them all to 0.9. Once you have every single one of them set to 0.9, what that is going to do for you, go ahead, queue up the map restart. As you guys can see, your HUD is a little bit more centered. It's going to make your clips look a million times better. That way your name is not getting cut off when your editor goes to pan crop your clips. Please save your editors. Give them breathing room to actually edit your clips and keep your name in the kill feed. As far as console commands go, I'm pretty sure that's just about it. That's again kind of the beauty of PC. If there's anything that comes to mind, you can adjust it in here. One thing that I forgot to mention, I just remembered this as I'm sitting here editing the video. A relatively common problem I've heard as of late is not being able to move your mouse in game, like not being able to look around with the mouse, up, down, side to side, whatever. I don't know what the root cause of the problem is, but I've heard that disabling every single audio and microphone device besides the main ones you use should fix that problem. Now, one of the final things that I wanted to cover here, this is completely optional, this is just pure customization here. A lot of people have already started creating their own custom camos. Here, for example, I have this Infinite Warfare Black Sky camo that replaces ice. I have this flowy cherry blossom that replaces water. If you guys want, I'll go ahead and leave this down in the description as well. I'll go ahead and zip up my images folder. You literally just drag and drop it into your directory like this. Just be sure that when you go to put the images folder in there, that when you double click on it, it actually shows all of the files and not just another folder that says images. I don't know exactly how it's done, but some people were able to get the zone tool assets and find what the exact names are of all the camos. You can create a PNG and just rename it to whatever the actual name of the camo is, and it should replace it in game. Now, do keep in mind, this is only going to be a visual for you. So again, like for example, while I'm here in game, I'm sure you guys can imagine what the nuclear red camo is, but I have this skull and roses camo for it. You're the only one that's going to be able to see the custom camos that you put on. So again, if you're curious about custom camos, they are super easy to install. It's literally just make an images folder here in MWR and just drop the PNGs in there. It is that easy. The final thing that I wanted to talk about is again security. Like I said at the start of the video, I know a whole lot of people are were very worried about downloading the wrong files. Oh, can you get RCE'd and ratted on this? The thing is, you're playing on server browsers, which are almost always the more safer alternative way to play games on PC, especially Call of Duty on PC. Server browsers are always going to be the better option in comparison to P2P, peer-to-peer, player-to-player matchmaking. To my understanding, the security is more so on the server owners and how secure their servers are are to protect your information. I'm sure there's a whole lot more that goes into it. That's just my understanding of it. If you've made it this far into the video, I'm assuming that you guys are willing to play this, so that's how it is. So with that all being said though, that's gonna go ahead and wrap up the tutorial video. I know there was a lot that I really wanted to cover here, but I tried to touch as many bases as I possibly could here. If you did make it to the end of the video and your question wasn't answered, feel free to go ahead and leave some comments. I'll try my best to point everyone in the right direction and give you guys as much information as I can. And again though, a lot of this may be subject to change when/if an official launcher comes out, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens up until then. With that all being said, go ahead and jump into the H2M mod. It's been a whole lot of fun playing it over the past couple of days, and I hope this helps. Once again, be sure to check out all of the links down in the description below. Feel free to join into my Discord. Thank you all so much for checking out this video. I really hope it helped. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. It's been Rage, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care, everybody.